Hi, welcome back to Chem with Go. Today we're going to take a look at empirical formula calculations, and what we'll use is the percent by mass of each one of these elements and determine what the chemical formula is going to be using the percent by masses. So if we know an unknown compound is made up of 75% carbon and 25% hydrogen, the best thing to do is to assume that you have 100 grams of your sample. So assume that you have the sample and you have 100 grams of this. And since you have 100 grams of this and 75% of it is carbon, we're going to automatically assume that 75 grams of that 100 gram sample would be carbon and 25 grams of that sample will end up being hydrogen. So we can automatically say if we have that many percent carbon for a 100 gram sample, we can convert this into grams of carbon and grams of hydrogen. Now what's next? We need to convert this into moles, into a quantity, something that's useful for us so that we can write a ratio between the two elements and determine what their chemical formula would be. In order to do that, we would need to set up the conversion factors and use their atomic masses to convert them into moles. So 1 mole goes on top, okay, of carbon, and we use the atomic mass of carbon, which happens to be 12.011 grams. Okay. This gives us a mole quantity of about 6.2442 and so on moles of carbon. Now we're not concerned about significant figures in this case because we are trying to find a whole number ratio between the elements. You don't see the chemical formulas having C, 1.5 or 1.5 to H 2.68 or something like that. Again, we're not concerned about significant figures in this calculation because we want whole numbers in our formula, not decimal values. Let's go back to the periodic table. The atomic mass for hydrogen is, for every 1 mole of hydrogen, that's 1.0079 grams. And when we do the math, it comes out to be 24.80 and so on moles of hydrogen. Okay, now what do we do with the quantities of moles for carbon and hydrogen? Well, as you can see, it seems to be that hydrogen is about 4 times as large as the carbon. Now, if you can't sort of visualize this right away, what you could do is just pick the quantity that you have the least of. In this case, we have the least amount of moles of carbon, and we're going to use it as a denominator in a ratio or a fraction. So let's write that out. 6.2422 moles of carbon. Down on the bottom, 24.80 moles of hydrogen on top. And when we plug this into our calculators, it comes out to be about 4. Now, when it comes out to be 4, what does this 4 really mean? Well, that means that for every 4 hydrogens, we have 1 carbon. And since this is a ratio that we've determined, we can now write our chemical formula to be CH4. Cool. And then that's it. Let's take a look at the part 2 of this series of empirical formula calculations in a little bit. Thanks. Bye.